From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang in Review. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. used his fifth State of the Nation address or SONA Monday to mark a turning point in his administration, drawing a line between the first 4 years and the final stretch of his term. Speaking for nearly an hour and a half before Congress, he laid out both an accounting of accomplishments and a roadmap for the next 2 years, centered on accountability, economic transformation, social protection, food and energy security, education, and the defense of Philippine sovereignty. The loudest applause came as President Marcos vowed that corruption cases would move forward regardless of political ties. He confirmed that the Ombudsman is preparing multiple cases against former House Speaker Martin Romualdez, his cousin, in connection with the flood control scandal. The President stressed that family ties will not stand in the way of accountability, noting that investigators have already filed charges against contractors, Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH officials and lawmakers. Nearly 25 billion pesos in assets have been recovered or frozen, with over 800 million pesos returned to the Treasury.
Mayroon ng mga unang nakasuhan at nakulong, mga kontratista, matataas na opisyal, pati na mga mambabatas. At dumating na tayo sa punto na ayon sa Ombudsman ay malapit na ang paghain ng patong-patong na kaso laban sa dating Speaker. Masakit man sa akin ito, ngunit kailangan nating gawin ang tama. Hindi ako pangulo ng aking pamilya. Hindi ako pangulo ng aking kaibigan. Ako ay Pangulo ng Pilipinas at ang tungkulin ko ay sa inyo, ang aking mga kapwa Pilipino. Kaakibat ng mga naisampang mga kaso, tiniyak ng inyong pamahalaan na mababawi mula sa mga nagsabwatan ang nakuha nilang pera ng taong bayan. Gayon din, pinigilan natin ang paglabas ng pera ng bayan na ipambayad padapat sa mga depektibo, peke o guni-guning mga proyekto at mapupunta lamang sa mga bulsa ng mga tiwalaing kontraktor at opisyal. Halos 25 bilyong piso ang halaga ng nabawi, frozen at napreserbang mga pera at ari-arian ng mga akusado. Ang mahigit 800 milyong piso dito ay agad nating nabalik sa Treasury. Lahat ng mababawi mula sa mga sangkot na tiwali ay agad ibabalik sa kaban ng bayan. Ipinapaubaya na natin ang pag-uusig sa Ombudsman at sa ating mga pinalakas na National Prosecution Service. Nananalig din tayo sa makatarungang hatol ng hukuman. Makakaasa kayo na ang gulong ng hustisya ay tumatakbo.
The economy, the chief executive highlighted reforms that have attracted more than 6 trillion pesos in investments, projected to generate over 400,000 jobs. He pointed to advanced manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, and artificial intelligence as industries where the Philippines is positioning itself. Among the flagship projects, the United States-backed Pax Silica Industrial Hub and the Luzon Economic Corridor. Energy costs drew one of the longest-standing ovations. President Marcos called for amendments to the Electric Power Industry Reform Act, or EPIRA, to stop consumers from being charged for system losses and value-added tax, or VAT, on those charges. He reaffirmed plans to expand renewable energy and prepare for nuclear power as part of the long-term energy security.
Sa lahat ng mga ginagawa natin sa sektor ng enerhiya, maninaw din sa pamahalaan ang hinaing ng taong bayan na pababain ang presyo ng kuryente sa bansa. Unang-una, upang maging simple, madali at abot-kaya ang pagpapakabit ng solar panel at battery storage system sa kanilang mga bahay, hinihiling ko ang tulong ng Kongreso na maipasa na ang Sariling Kuryente Act. At kung pagbawas ng presyo ang usapan, sa aking palagay, panahon na para tanggalin na natin ang systems loss na pinapasa sa consumer. Pinapasa ito sa consumer at kinakarga sa bill na pinapatungan pa ng value-added tax. Hindi naman kasalanan ng consumer kung bakit nagkaroon ng systems loss. Kaya hindi naman tama na kailangan sila pa ang pagbabayarin dito. Therefore, we, the people, we demand for the immediate amendment of the EPIRA and to prohibit charging systems loss against consumers, including the value-added tax thereon.
Food security also featured prominently with investments in irrigation, mechanization, cold storage, and AI-driven monitoring. President Marcos said dams and reservoirs are being built to ensure year-round water supply and boost rice production. Education reforms included expanded feeding programs for 4.5 million young learners, deployment of 10,000 school counselors, promotions for 80,000 teachers, and the construction of 16,000 classrooms through public-private partnerships. Healthcare and social protection were framed around preventive care, expanded PhilHealth benefits, and zero-balance billing. The President reported that 4.5 million Filipinos have received consultations under the Yaman ng Kalusugan Program, or YAKAP, while nearly 3 million benefited from zero-balance billing in Department of Health or DOH hospitals. The emotional climax came with foreign policy. President Marcos condemned recent insults directed at Filipinos amid tensions in the West Philippine Sea following a violent clash with the China Coast Guard near Ayungin Shoal. He reaffirmed the Philippines' commitment to the 2016 Arbitral Award and vowed to defend sovereignty through peaceful and legal means.
Our unity and collective consciousness are challenged now greater than ever before. A common threat lies before us, directed against our dignity and self-respect. Of late, our very humanity has been called into question. Let me remind our friends and our detractors, Filipinos are a noble, kind, gracious, and great race. We are not greedy, we are not racists, we are not liars. We are respectful and we are dignified. We are Filipinos and we do not yield.
Rather than unveiling new flagship programs, President Marcos cast the remaining 2 years as a period of completion. He pledged to finish what has been started, from corruption cases to education, healthcare, energy, and sovereignty, declaring that the work is for the country's children, its future, and its people.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has turned over more than 147 million pesos worth of medical equipment to the Davao de Oro Provincial Hospital in Monte Vista to strengthen healthcare services in the province. The president personally handed over the assistance during his visit to inspect the hospital on Tuesday, which sustained damage from the magnitude 7.8 earthquake that struck Mindanao in June. President Marcos said the administration is focusing not only on treating illnesses but also on preventing them through immunization, nutrition, and early medical consultations. He added that improving access to quality health care remains one of the government's highest priorities. The hospital serves patients from Davao de Oro and nearby municipalities and is expected to be upgraded to a Level 2 facility by 2027 to expand its services and accommodate more patients.
Ang kasabihan nga yan sa English, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Kaya mas maganda pag inuunahan natin. Kaya po, healthcare po ay napakalaking prioridad sa administrasyong ito. Sa administrasyong ito, napakahalaga para sa amin na maganda ang pag-alaga sa mga nagkakasakit sa ating mga kababayan at hindi lamang sa mga nagkakasakit. Inuunahan po natin ngayon, hindi na natin inaantay na magkasakit.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. led the distribution of around 113 million pesos in financial assistance to 565 barangays in Davao de Oro, Davao del Norte, and Davao Occidental under the Socio-Civic Projects Fund. During the launch of the Bawat Bayan Makikinabang program in Nabunturan, Davao de Oro, the president said the initiative is designed to bring government assistance directly to communities and help local officials address their constituents' most urgent needs. Each barangay received 200,000 pesos, with half allocated for the Bagong Pilipinas Presidential Scholars Program and the remaining amount for priority community development projects. President Marcos also urged scholars to make the most of the assistance by finishing their education. The president also emphasized the importance of close coordination between the national and local governments to ensure public services reach communities effectively. He assured local officials that the national government remains committed to supporting their development programs.
Ang pamahalaan ninyo ay nandito, hindi kayo nakakalimutan kahit kayo'y nasa malayong lugar. Ay nandito po kami, ginagawa po namin ang lahat. Gamitin ninyo na mabuti itong pondong ito. Take advantage, pagsamantalaan ninyo na meron tayong pondo na maibigay at mag-aral kayo na mabuti. Pag hindi magandang naging ugnayan sa local government at saka sa national government, ay hindi rin mararamdaman ng tao yung mga serbisyong yan, yung mga benepisyong yan.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Tuesday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has vowed to complete 42 additional buildings under a government housing project in Davao City by the end of next year. The president made the commitment during his visit to the People's Ville housing project in Kalinan District, saying the development will provide more than 7,000 housing units once completed. President Marcos said the project goes beyond building houses, with plans to include schools and other essential services to create complete and sustainable communities.
Mas malaki yung building at hindi ganito karami sa isang development. So we're looking just to see. Hindi pa tapos to. Ang idadagdag pa ilang building pa?
42.
Altogether 42 buildings ito. So 7,000 plus ang unit na maitatayo pagka natapos na lahat ito. Lahat ito, yung buo nito matatapos by end next year. Diba? Sakali, makasakali. Matatapos natin yan. By the end of next year, lahat ng 42 na buildings. Kasi ang ginagawa natin ngayon, hindi lang tayo gumagawa ng bahay, gumagawa tayo ng community na kumpleto na lahat. Dahil mahirap tirahan kung wala naman pupuntahan yung mga bata, walang malapit na palengke, hindi malapit sa trabaho. Yun ang mga titignan natin, hindi lang yung pagpatayo ng bahay.
The People's Ville project is part of the government's Pambansang Pabahay para sa Pilipino program or 4PH. The president also said the government will revisit Davao City's flood control master plan and provide funding for priority flood mitigation projects to help prevent future flooding.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday led the inauguration of the Energy Museum and the celebration of the 25th anniversary of the Electric Power Industry Reform Act or EPIRA at the Department of Energy or DOE Energy Center in Bonifacio Global City or BGC, Taguig City. The Energy Museum is the country's first dedicated energy education facility, designed to enhance public understanding of the Philippine energy sector through interactive exhibits highlighting the country's energy history, power system, and long-term energy goals. The event also marks the 25th anniversary of Republic Act or RA number 9136, the EPIRA, which established the framework for restructuring the country's electric power industry to promote reliable, secure, affordable, and competitive electricity services.
Sa tulong nito, mas maunawaan ng bawat Pilipino kung paano nabubuo, naihahatid at nagagamit ang kuryente sa ating pang-araw-araw na buhay. Beyond awareness, this museum is an investment in our people. It stands as a bridge between the classroom and the control room, between curiosity and career. To every young Filipino that walks through these pods and sees an engineer, a geoscientist, a policy analyst reflected in these exhibits, I say, this could be you. This is the future of the Philippines that will be built by the students who will visit or stand in this museum. Equally important, the museum underscores the challenges of delivering affordable, reliable, sustainable power across our archipelagic nation.
Was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday conferred the Order of Sikatuna on outgoing Hungarian Ambassador Tita Nelia Toth, recognizing her efforts in strengthening ties between the Philippines and Hungary. Toth received the award during her farewell call at Malacañang Palace, where the President expressed gratitude for her service and contributions to bilateral relations. Hungary has consistently supported the early conclusion of a free trade agreement or FTA between the European Union and the Philippines, underscoring its commitment to deeper economic cooperation. In a separate engagement, President Marcos also met with outgoing Dutch Ambassador Marielle Geerts. He noted that her tenure was marked by both memorable experiences and significant progress in bilateral relations, thanking her for supporting Philippine development initiatives. The chief executive reaffirmed the country's commitment to sustaining and deepening partnerships with Hungary and the Netherlands, highlighting the importance of continued cooperation in trade, investment, and development.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang on Wednesday said President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s proposed tax reform package and amendments to the Electric Power Industry Reform Act, or EPIRA, are the product of careful study and consultations. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro stressed that the president does not announce major policy initiatives, especially in his State of the Nation Address or SONA, without thorough review and consultation with relevant officials. She added that the administration's economic team will present details of the measures, including fiscal impact and funding sources. On whether the tax reform bills will be certified as urgent, Castro said the proposals must be transmitted to the president for review before certification. President Marcos unveiled the tax reform package and EPIRA amendments in his fifth SONA as part of efforts to strengthen the economy, improve revenue generation, and enhance the energy sector.
Hindi po magsasalita ang Pangulo kung wala siyang basihan. Inaaral po ng Pangulo ang bawat sinasabi niya. Hindi po siya nagsasalita sa harap ng media, especially sa SONA, kung wala siyang pagbabatayan. Ang kailangan lang po kasi makita yung mga bill. At pag nakita po ng Pangulo ay definitely yan po ay isi-certify as urgent.
Address, the president called for the removal of system loss charges and the corresponding value-added tax from electricity bills, emphasizing that such costs should not be borne by consumers.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Wednesday, Malacañang clarified that President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s proposal to scrap system loss charges from electricity bills is meant to protect consumers from avoidable costs, not to financially burden electric utilities. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro issued the statement after the Philippine Rural Electric Cooperatives Association warned that removing system loss charges without government support could hurt cooperatives. Castro explained that the president's plan seeks to end the practice of passing losses to consumers while pushing utilities to improve efficiency. She stressed that utilities must strengthen monitoring and implement measures against electricity theft and pilferage. The palace emphasized that the proposal remains under study to ensure reforms will not negatively affect distributors. Subsidies for cooperatives, Castro noted, are not being discussed.
Ang gusto po ng Pangulo ay matanggal itong extra cost sa ating mga kababayan. Hindi naman para pasanin ang burden na ito ng mga consumer, pati naman po ng mga utility companies. Hindi po yan ang nais ng Pangulo. Ang nais lamang po ng Pangulo ay tiyakin din ng mga utility companies na mayroon silang isinasagawang plano at pagmamonitor para maiwasan po itong losses na ito. Lalong-lalo na po yung mga losses because of theft, pilferage, na napapasan ng mga maaayos at mga matitirong mga Pilipino na nagbabayad ng kanilang mga obligasyon. So, Dapat itong sagutin ng utility companies. Bakit? Dahil kailangan nilang gumawa ng programa para maiwasan ito. So, kailangan na maging efficient din sila para maiwasan ang losses na napapasan ng ating mga kababayan. So, ito po ay inaaral dahil hindi po nais ng Pangulo na hindi rin maging maganda ang epekto nito sa mga utility companies. Sa pag-subsidize, hindi siya napag-uusapan. Ang kinakailangan din pag-aralan ng utility companies kung paano nila maiiwasan na magkaroon ng losses.
In his fifth State of the Nation address, President Marcos urged Congress to amend the Electric Power Industry Reform Act, or EPIRA, to prohibit charging consumers for system losses, including value-added tax or VAT on such charges. The president argued that households should not shoulder costs from technical inefficiencies or theft, saying the current practice unfairly inflates bills.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has ordered the Department of Agriculture, or DA, to push forward with the modernization of fish ports nationwide, aiming to boost the fishery sector and secure a steady supply of affordable, high-quality seafood. Speaking during his inspection of the newly rehabilitated Suwal Fish Port Complex in Pangasinan Thursday, the only regional fish port in northern Luzon, President Marcos underscored the need for sustained investment in port infrastructure to expand capacity, improve seafood transport, preserve food quality, and support the livelihood of Filipino fisherfolk. The upgraded Suwal facility now features modern fish processing and cold storage units, a multi-purpose pier, commercial building, and improved access roads. According to the Presidential Communications Office, or PCO, these enhancements are expected to cut post-harvest losses, widen market access, and ensure continuous delivery of quality fish to consumers. The President also met with Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BIFAR, crew members who recently faced harassment from the Chinese Coast Guard near Bajo de Masinloc in the West Philippine Sea. President Marcos commended their resilience and reaffirmed his administration's commitment to safeguarding Filipino fishermen and protecting the nation's waters.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has turned over 102.2 million pesos in aid under the Socio-Civic Projects Fund, or SCPF, to 511 villages in Tarlac, with half of the allocation dedicated to supporting presidential scholars. The distribution took place during the rollout of the Bawat Bayan Makikinabang initiative at the Tarlac City Civic Center, where the President also met with students beneficiaries of the Presidential Scholars Program. Each village will receive 200,000 pesos, 100,000 for local development and safety projects, and another 100,000 to fund 5 scholars. Each granted 20,000 pesos for educational expenses. President Marcos stressed that education remains the government's top priority, calling it the nation's most vital investment. The President urged scholars to study diligently, complete their education, and use their knowledge to uplift their communities and contribute to nation building. He expressed confidence that barangay officials would manage the remaining funds responsibly, saying they are best positioned to identify local needs. As of July 2nd, the government has released 4.69 billion pesos to 23,432 villages nationwide under the SCPF.
Bakit natin pinaprioritize ang edukasyon? Bakit mahalaga ang edukasyon? Dahil unang-una, para sa komunidad, ito ay may importante para naman kayo ay meron kayong magandang napag-aralan, meron kayong magandang naitapos na sa eskwela, ay kapag ganun, yung inyong kaalaman, Lagi ko nga sinasabi dun sa pag kinakausap ko rin yung mga ibang presidential scholar, lagi kong sinasabi na itong kaalaman na makukuha ninyo sa eskwela, yan ang yaman. Yan ang ibang klaseng yaman yan. Hindi parang pera lang yan. Hindi lang parang may maganda kang malaking bahay. Hindi ganit. Ibang klaseng ang kayamanan, ang kaalaman. Dahil kung ano man ang natutunan ninyo sa inyong pag-aaral, ay yung kayamanan na yan ay hindi na maaring kunin sa inyo. Hindi maaring agawin sa inyo, hindi maaring nakawin sa inyo, at habang buhay sa inyo na yan, yung yaman na yan, at araw-araw, magagamit ninyo yung kaalaman na yan para pagandahin ang inyong buhay, para pagandahin ang buhay ng inyong pamilya, pagandahin ang inyong komunidad, at sa ganung paraan, pagagandahin din ninyo ang buong Pilipinas. Dahil pagka magandang edukasyon ng population, ng ating mga kababayan, kayo, pagka naging maganda, ay marami kayong magagawa ng pampatulong. Hindi lang sa sarili ninyo, kundi sa inyong mga kapwa Pilipino. At yun ang pinakamahalaga sa lahat.
Alongside the financial aid, President Marcos distributed 10-kilogram rice packs to 3,077 beneficiaries in Tarlac, funded through the Local Government Support Fund or LGSF. The President noted that 1,276 local government units or LGUs have already received assistance under the program, with some granted a second round. President Marcos assured families that food aid will continue every 2 months, emphasizing that the government stands ready to support communities across the country.
Yan po ang ating dalawang programa. Yan po ang dalawang programa na nasa ilalim po ng bawat bayan makikinabang. Ito po ay ang magandang tulungan ng national government at saka ng local government. Talagang ginawa nating partner, hindi lamang kami nang uutos na sinasabi, ito yung gagawin ninyo, ito yung gagawin ninyo. Sinasabi, tulungan nyo kami para maibaba. Bakit natin ginawa nyo? Para maibaba ang benepisyo at saka lahat ng serbisyo ng taong bayan, mapababa ng mabilis at malawak kaagad. Kaya kung meron kayong naiisip na kailangan gawin, meron kayong nakitang problema, meron kayong nakitang solusyon, kung ano man, ang inyong mga iniisip, kung may hinaing kayo, may suggestion kayo, ay sabihin nyo po sa amin. Sabihin niyo sa inyong mga local government official, sabihin nyo sa mga nandito, mga representative ng mga iba't ibang national agency, at alamin para malaman namin kung ano ba talaga ang pangangailangan ninyo. At asahan po ninyo, kagaya ng sabi ko, ang inyong pamahalaan ay nandito para sa inyo. At kung ano man ang inyong hinihiling, kung kaya namin ibigay, kung kaya namin gawin, asahan ninyo, gagawin po namin. Asahan ninyo na yung pamahalaan ninyo ay nakikinig sa inyo at ginagawa ang lahat. Nag-iisip kami kung paano pa ang makatulong. At lahat ng maaring gawin ay gagawin namin para naman matiyak na ang ating mga kababayan, lalong-lalo na yung mga nangangailangan, ay naaalagaan, naaalalayan, hindi lamang sa panahon ng sakuna, kung hindi sa araw-araw ninyong buhay.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Thursday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. paid tribute to the valor and commitment of the Northern Luzon Command or NOLCOM officers and troops during his visit to Camp General Serviliano Aquino in Tarlac. The Commander-in-Chief received a full briefing on NOLCOM's operational readiness, highlighting its capacity to safeguard the nation's territorial integrity and maritime domain. President Marcos underscored the urgent need to further strengthen the command's preparedness, interoperability, and coordination with other government agencies and allied partners. He stressed that these measures are vital to confronting both current and emerging national security challenges. The President reaffirmed his administration's unwavering commitment to defend the country's sovereignty and national interests. President Marcos also emphasized continued government support for Filipino soldiers, ensuring their welfare, enhancing their capabilities, and recognizing their sacrifices in the service of the nation.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, Malacañang has defended President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s approval of the release of Vice President Sara Duterte's tax records to the Senate Impeachment Court, saying the move was anchored on law, truth, and due process. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro explained that the President merely allowed legal proceedings to take their course after the Senate Court subpoenaed the Bureau of Internal Revenue or BIR. She stressed that President Marcos would not block evidence sought through lawful judicial channels, adding that the President will not withhold the truth from the Filipino people. Castro dismissed claims of political motivation, saying critics often brand lawful actions as political. She emphasized that President Marcos was simply following legal processes.
Kung ano ang sinasabi ng batas, kung ano ang proseso, susunod po ang Pangulo. So kung yan ang sinasabi po at kinakailangan na magbigay siya ng kanyang approval sa BIR para mabuksan ang tax records nila VP Sara at ni Atty. Manscarpio, at ito naman ay para sa katotohanan. Hindi niya po ipagkakait ang katotohanan sa ating mga kababayan. But hinihingi po ito ngayon na pagkakataon. At yun po ang sinasabi ng mga nasa Senado. Yan po ang hiniling. Kahit na po si Senator Lacson, yan din po ang ating nadinig. Hindi po magiging hadlang si Pangulong Marcos Jr. sa paglabas ng katotohanan. Sa lahat naman ng pagkakataon, kapag ang Pangulo ay gumagawa ng naaayon sa batas pero merong tinatamaan, laging sasabihin nila, politically motivated. So saan pupunta? Saan gagawi ang Pangulo? Kahit ano pang sabihin ng iba. Basta ang alam ng Pangulo, siya ay tumutupad sa proseso, siya ay tumutupad sa batas, kahit siya pa ay paringgan o bigyan ng negatibong impresyon, hindi matitinag ang Pangulo. Basta siya ay sa batas at sa proseso.
Submitted Duterte's tax records along those of her husband, lawyer Manscarpio, and companies linked to the couple. The Senate Impeachment Court earlier granted prosecutors' requests for subpoenas covering tax, bank, and financial documents to support allegations of unexplained wealth. House prosecutors have cited alleged bank transactions amounting to 6.77 billion pesos from 2006 to 2025, which they claim do not match Duterte's declared assets. Her defense team has opposed the subpoenas, arguing they are illegal, unreasonable, and violate constitutional rights.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our post as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang in Review. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and mabuhay.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.